Hello and welcome to this year's Pride Special, looking back and moving forward, where we're honoring everyone, past and present, who has worked to advance equality for LGBTQ people. I'm your host, John Schrabel. We begin with a perfect example of this year's theme, gay marriage. Almost 20 years ago, then Mayor Gavin Newsom decided San Francisco would ignore the law of the land and start issuing marriage licenses to same-sex couples. And one of the first couples to get married in the city are still fighting for equality all around the world. Teresa Estacio brings us their story.
This is John Lewis and Stuart Gaffney in Japan. For decades, the married couple has fought passionately for LGBTQ rights, giving them a front seat on the many twists and turns.
Yeah, here in Japan, there are no laws that protect LGBT people from discrimination. And right now, there are 5 lawsuits for marriage equality, just like the lawsuit that Stuart and I were part of.
This is also a snapshot of the couple on February 12, 2004. They were one of the first same-sex couples to get married in San Francisco when then Mayor Gavin Newsom made his surprise landmark move. Lines wrapped around City Hall as couples came from around the country to exchange vows.
This was radical and revolutionary 19 years ago in 2004. When we married, we felt something extraordinary. And to this day, I can still feel the chills.
The two were also one of hundreds to see their marriage nullified when then Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger accused Newsom of overstepping his authority, and the state filed a lawsuit wiping out same-sex marriages.
I truly believe that it's that for better or for worse, till death do us part, that is going to see us through all the obstacles in our way to the greatest celebration of all, full equality for all people.
Challenges ultimately led to a tsunami of legal battles. The tide did turn, though. This is the couple on their wedding day in 2008, when the right to marry was restored in California. Then in 2015, the United States Supreme Court historically ruled in favor of same-sex marriages. And in 2022, the United States Congress voted to codify same-sex marriages.
It reminds me of the basic fact that Pride began as a protest. And protest has always been an important part of Pride. It's also very important in this Pride season that we celebrate, because if we don't take stock of all that we've accomplished, we won't be fortified for all the work we have left to do.
As Pride Month kicks off, the couple reflects on the work that remains for equality. Just recently, Target found itself facing a controversy and backlash. The CEO announced some stores would pull their Pride merchandise after negative feedback from some customers, specifically zeroing in on transgender clothing. Currently, in at least 18 states, laws are now in the books barring gender-affirming medical care for those under 18.
When your basic human rights are taken away to medical care, this is an abomination. As the president said, it's cruelty.
When I spoke to the couple, Stuart was in San Francisco, John in Japan. Both lead lectures abroad. I asked why they chose to share their stories around the world.
This is a global movement for human rights and for freedom and love. It's a global movement for love.
Although a lot has changed throughout the years, the couple says from their seat on this ride, they are proud of the past and look forward to pushing for more in the future. Teresa Estacio, Chrome 4 News.
The opioid epidemic is affecting communities across the country and around the world. The gay community is no exception. Rob Nesbitt brings us a look at how one drag queen is using their platform to educate their fans and maybe even save a life.
While music plays and a packed house waits for the Princess show at Oasis to start, the cast of drag performers prepares backstage.
It's all good. Thank you.
Including the host of the weekly San Francisco show, Cochina Rude. She spends her Saturday nights surrounded by color, sparkle, and pride.
You look incredible. Thank you.
At 10 p.m., the curtain opens, and Cochina starts the show with her co-host, Lisa Frankenstein.
I'm Cochina Rude, everybody.
Introducing themselves and the cast of colorful performers who wow audiences and earn their cash tips. But 2 years ago, Cochina earned a second title, Narcan Queen.
Every time we start the show, I always look to make sure we have Narcan.
She spends her day job with the California Department of Public Health, working in harm reduction for the last decade. Cochina has seen the grip that the opioid epidemic has had on San Francisco, especially fentanyl in areas like the Tenderloin. In September of 2021, things got very real when a friend of hers overdosed at a party.
I realized that so many people who were present were not getting the information that they needed around how to recognize an overdose and how to use Narcan.
Cochina took matters into her own hands and 1 month later brought her day job to her night job.
Let's talk about harm reduction.
After every intermission at Princess, Cochina starts the second half of the show by telling audience members how to recognize an overdose.
They're pale in the face and then their lips are blue or purple.
And then how to reverse that overdose using naloxone, also known as Narcan.
2 different nostrils. It takes 2 to 5 minutes to work.
After her tips and how-to advice is done, Cochina hands out packets of Narcan for free to those who want it.
Make a plan, carry Narcan, know how to use it. Almost 2 years since I started doing this, we've given away over 2,000 doses of Narcan. For free.
She's extremely proud of the work, especially when the show is over and audience members come up to speak one-on-one.
Might be even telling me about their own experiences, and I've also spoken with people who have been Narcaned and who have overdosed themselves, and I feel really honored that people feel comfortable sharing their stories with me.
She admits that it wasn't easy to bring harm reduction into a weekly drag show, but if it was easy, everyone would be doing this.
Thank you so much.
Saving lives and proudly wearing the title Narcan Queen.
We have learned to do this out of necessity, and we're going to continue doing it now.
In San Francisco, Rob Nesbitt, Cron 4 News.
If we can live a more authentic life, if we can walk through the world a little more fabulous, we inspire other people to be a little more fabulous. And if everyone in the world was just a little more fabulous, there'd be that much less room in their heart and their mind for anger, hostility, prejudice, and violence.
San Francisco's first drag laureate, Darcy Drollinger, speaking at this year's Pride kickoff event at City Hall. The Human Rights Campaign began Pride Month by declaring a state of emergency for LGBTQ+ people, calling attention to a number of state laws the organization calls discriminatory, as well as the current national political climate. Darcy Drollinger stopped by our studios to talk about the importance of this moment, both for drag performers and the LGBTQ community at large.
It feels like such a shame when there are much bigger issues like gun control that are actually hurting people rather than us who are entertaining folks. I think by shining our light as well as fighting is what's important.
When we come back, what does it mean to be part of the Two-Spirit community, the volunteer organization that offers up activities for Indigenous LGBTQ people and their families? Welcome back, and thanks so much for staying with us. Members of the LGBTQ+ community raised a brand new rainbow flag at Harvey Milk Plaza this year.
It's important that we keep the flag beautiful as a symbol of hope for the entire community and the entire world, that there is a safe place to be exactly who you are.
The flag was created by gay activist and artist Gilbert Baker and tie-dyed by a team of volunteers. It was first flown in 1978. Today, the iconic 30-foot flag serves as a beacon in the Castro, something those taking part in the flag raising say is more important now than ever.
We all need to do our part and stand up for our trans brothers and sisters and siblings and let them know that we're here for them, we're here to support them.
We need to stand up and to make sure that they're protected and that we continue to invite them to every table and to celebrate their contributions to our community.
The last remaining piece of the original flag is on display at the nearby LGBT Historical Society Museum. At its core, Two-Spirit is a descriptor used in some indigenous communities for people who feel both masculine and feminine. But the term transcends gender roles and sexuality. It also reflects a complex understanding of indigenous culture and spirituality. Sarah Stinson introduces us to a volunteer organization that supports our local Two-Spirit community.
The grand entry for the Bates Powwow 2023.
This is the annual Two-Spirit Powwow in San Francisco. It's put on by the organization Bates, which stands for Bay Area American Indian Two-Spirits. It's been around for more than 23 years, hosting cultural events for the indigenous LGBTQ+ community. Members describe what it means to identify as Two-Spirit.
LGBTQ people, they tended to look at them as incorporating or having two spirits within themselves, one male, one female.
Two-Spirit was created for Two-Spirit people by Two-Spirit people.
Bates hosted the first ever Two-Spirit powwow in the nation 12 years ago. Now they're popping up all over the country. This year's event was held at Fort Mason in February. 4,000 people attended, allowing everyone to celebrate their heritage, culture, and sexuality.
An incredible feeling to be able to be Two-Spirit and to be indigenous and be in your culture as well. So it's a remarkable thing, and we are happy and very glad to be able to provide that.
All Bates events are alcohol and drug-free. Jim Eagle is the chair of the board. He says having a sober environment is crucial.
It's really important to me as somebody who has 26 years of sobriety myself. I do have a twin brother who passed away, and several other family members, in fact, who've passed away from alcoholism, including my biological mother. So,
according to American Addiction Centers, alcohol is the most commonly used drug among American Indians, more than any other ethnic group.
I have been sober for the last 18 years, in one program and 15 in another. And I've had multiple family members die from alcoholism. Hopefully by sharing my personal journey, we can give folks hope.
As the volunteer-run organization continues to grow, Angel Fabian is the first paid executive director. Members tell me the reason this organization has grown over the years is because it offers a sober place for prayer and socialization, where people within the community can connect. Bates also hosts monthly talking circles to offer support.
It's critical. You know, the issues of isolation, the issues of not being understood by their own communities, and you know, some of the coping mechanisms.
But it's really about that collective prayer of what can we do together? How do we give and take? How do we share? How do we show up? How do we love? How do we be big? How do we be beautiful? How do we be fully alive?
You will see members of Bates at the Pride Parade doing an open prayer and a land acknowledgement. I'm Sarah Stinson reporting, KRON 4 News.
Don't go anywhere, or should I say, hold your horses and join us at one of the oldest gay bars around. That's still to come after the break. Welcome back. One of the oldest continuously operating gay bars in the country is in Oakland. The White Horse just celebrated its 90th anniversary in May. Amanda Harry spoke with the bar's new owner about the legacy that she hopes to continue.
It was a safe place then, it's a safe place now, it's a safe place for me.
The White Horse Bar on Telegraph Avenue in Oakland poured its first drink in 1933. Since then, it continued to be a safe haven for those in the LGBTQ+ community.
From what I've read also, it's never been raided.
Police raids targeted gay and lesbian bars in the Bay Area starting in the 1950s. In the early 60s, police shut down nearly half the gay bars, but the White Horse stayed open. It would be another 30 years before new owner Patty Dingle would discover the LGBTQ+ sanctuary.
I used to come here in the 90s on Thursday nights. This place has brought a lot of great memories for me. I have a lot of great memories. When I first came out, this was the place where I felt super safe.
Dingle just acquired the bar in December. She always knew she wanted to own a bar. When she retired, she decided to find the perfect one. When Whitehorse became available, she jumped on the opportunity to continue the legacy of one of the longest continuously operating LGBTQ plus bars in the country.
There's a big history here. I'm super proud to be a part of that history.
Denise Ascio is the bar manager. While she just started in the position when Dingle bought the bar, she's been a part of Whitehorse much longer.
Since about 2000s, when I first moved to California, and I was a gaby.
Ascio moved from Hawaii and was searching for a community. Now she helps create that community for others.
I'm really grateful to be in a place like the Whitehorse. Is like, I just feel like I'm supposed to be here, and it's a blessing.
Dingle says she strives to make the bar inclusive.
We often talk about LGBT. This is also for the Q, the I, the A.
She says while she wishes the LGBTQ plus community was accepted everywhere, that's not the case. But Whitehorse will continue to set the standard.
We have to have these spaces, right? Because people still are not comfortable holding their partner's hand in public. People are still not comfortable even coming out to their families. And I want people to recognize that everybody is on their own journey, right? And I think we need to respect that and meet people where they are. And if people come here and it's that one time where they can come and be free, they're gonna be able to feel valued and loved when they walk through these doors.
In Oakland, Amanda Harry, KRON 4 News.
Volunteers again making the trek up Twin Peaks in San Francisco this year to install the iconic pink triangle. For nearly 3 decades, the triangle has been put up to remind people of the discrimination LGBTQ people have faced and still face today. This year, the installation went back to its roots, piecing together almost 200 strips of canvas that are visible from across the bay.
The reason we do this is it's a giant educational tool, so people become curious, and when they see it, when they're on the freeway and go, what is that? And then they look it up, because it's part of appreciating and celebrating any pride is knowing where you've been, and this pink triangle is it.
Over 400 volunteers came out to help put up this year's triangle, the first brand new triangle since 2010. If you're feeling lazy, that's okay. Bear with us and stay right where you're at. We'll take a look at the annual event on the Russian River, where people are putting in a lot of work for their community. Over 2 decades ago, one man decided to host a small gathering on the Russian River for bears. That's a term for gay men who project an aura of rugged masculinity. Fast forward to today, that small gathering has turned into a full week's worth of events that generates millions of dollars for charity and the local economy. Michael Thomas has a look.
Just 75 miles north of San Francisco, a small town called Guerneville sits along the Russian River. And since the summer of 1996, gay clientele from around the world have gathered there for its Lazy Bear event, which is now Lazy Bear Week. And it's all put together by a small army of volunteers like Steve Adams, who sits on the board.
It was started by Harry Litt and Ellen Eggman 26 years ago.
The event spreads throughout the town and offers beach parties, campfires, and live entertainment along the Russian River. Most guests stay at local lodges, campgrounds, and cabins, fueling the economy all week. And if you buy a bear tag, well, it gives you free and discounted admission to most events, and the proceeds go to the Lazy Bear Fund. And David Barker, who sits on the board, says
these events are about self-affirmation and building community and raising money for projects like public health centers, food banks.
The board donates almost all the proceeds, and while things have come a long way since 1996, Adam says there's still a lot of work that needs to be done.
Community's under attack right now, and we need to do everything we can to support those organizations because, you know, the world is changing.
And as the world changes, Adams hopes the meaning behind Lazy Bear doesn't, adding that it's not just for bears, it's for everyone. And it's almost at its 30-year mark, and he has hope that it'll last forever.
I'd like to see a new generation come through and continue this, because HIV/AIDS is not ending. We hope to end it, but it's not, and maybe money raised during this event can help end it. And the LGBT fight is not over yet.
Lazy Bear Week is the first week of August this year, and while it originated here, there are now dozens of Lazy Bear events across the country. In Guerneville, Michael Thomas, KRON 4 News.
Thank you for joining us for Pride, looking back and moving forward. We hope we've inspired you to take a few steps forward to advance equality and justice for all. And remember to love everyone, because love is for everyone.